Hey, welcome back to Guided by Faith. This is episode 50. I cannot believe how quickly time is blowing through. For those of you that don't know, I do another podcast called Let's Parent on Purpose, which is a marriage and parenting podcast more aimed at moms and dads or those that are going to be moms and dads sooner than later. Anyway, it took me like a year to get to episode 50 because those were weekly, and we've just been at this a month and a half, 2 months, maybe 3 months. I don't know. I'm losing track. But anyway, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for listening. And thank you so much for sharing it with your friends. That's really important. This is designed to encourage and help you. And if it helps you, I think it would help somebody that you know and love. And so just take a moment and share it with them. So we've been talking this week about how we live in an angry world, how there's a lot of people trying to profit from stirring you up. And at the end of the week, I want to leave you with a passage that we're going to really unwrap next week. But before I read it, I want you to think about this. How would you feel? How would your insides be if you found yourself in prison with a life sentence, knowing that the life sentence meant, the next year, because then you were going to be killed. You were going to be executed. How would you feel if you found yourself in prison for the rest of your life, knowing that you're going to be executed, and it's not going to be some kind, gentle way? Your execution was going to be having your head chopped off. Now, that sounds awful to think about, but it's the reality for the author of this passage that we're about to read. In Philippians, we're going to read Philippians chapter 4 through 9. And the Apostle Paul is writing this from prison. Now, he was imprisoned a couple times. This was his last imprisonment from what we can understand, written about AD 60 to 62. And Nero is the emperor of Rome, and Paul is in jail. And I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this is written kind of near the end of his life. And this is what he writes. He's not pleading and begging for his release. This is what he writes. Philippians 4, starting in verse 4. Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I will say rejoice. Let your reasonableness be known to everyone. The Lord is at hand. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. What you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. So just on Friday of this week, on the last day of the week, as we've been talking about an angry world, and there's truthfully people trying to profit from your anxiety. There's so many things that you can't control. I want you to know that there are absolutely things that you can control. And the most important of those is you can control your mind. You can control your mindset. Now, you can't control every feeling that comes into your body, but you do have a choice in what you dwell on. You have a choice in what you say. You have a choice in what you think about. And Paul, writing from prison, knowing it's near the end of his life, is not in doom and gloom and turmoil. He's at peace. Why? Because he has chosen a mindset of gratitude, rejoice in the Lord always. He has chosen a pathway of prayer that rather than live in anxiety, I'm just going to keep giving things to God and giving things to God and giving things to God. And so he's exchanging his turmoil and anxiety for the peace of Jesus. He is, instead of thinking about his deprivation, his loss, what he's missing out on, he's thinking about whatever's true, whatever's honorable. He is training his thinking on the good things of God. And then he's thinking about being an example and passing on that example. So Paul is not dwelling on the things out of his control. He is thinking about the things that are under his control, handing the things that are out of his control to Jesus, and exchanging turmoil and anxiety for the peace of Christ. So we're going to unpack this coming week, but I just want to encourage you, whatever you're experiencing, it is not too overwhelming for the grace of God. Whatever you are currently walking through or what you're anticipating walking through, it is not too much for the peace of God. And so I encourage you this weekend, Get into Philippians 4 through 9. Next week, we're going to unpack it a lot. But look at the pathway that the Apostle Paul used to go from turmoil, imprisonment, and anxiety to the peace of Christ, which surpasses all understanding. That's what I want for you. I want the peace of Christ that passes all understanding. Today, I want you to know that it's possible and that a lot of it rests on choices that you can intentionally and deliberately make every day. So let's start making those choices. And next week, I'll explore this whole passage in depth so you can make even better choices. I look forward to talking to you next week, and happy 50th episode.